this morning. This is such an important issue to me. My name is Heidi Marco, and I'm the founder of the Beginning of the Foundation. I lost my sister in 2005 to domestic violence. Her husband ended up shooting her and killing her the day after she moved out. So as you can understand, today is very important to me, and I'm so happy that I see a lot of people I know and friends, and thank you for coming, Representative Freeman. Hi, how are you? And I want to thank Superintendent Doug Wagner and George Washburn, who is a board member here at the Link Center, for always supporting my cause and for hosting this special event. And I'm going to let George tell you a little bit more about the Link Center and what they do here. So thank you again for coming out.
Thank you, Heidi. Welcome. We welcome you here to the Link Center. It's an organization that started about 4.5 years ago to support a lot of the programs that go into school. We learned that there are a lot of children that go home from school on Friday, come back on Monday, and have little or nothing to eat. We have started a Warriors Bag program. Every Friday we have 60 to 70 bags packed with food, sent home with the children on the bus so that they do have something to eat. When they come back to school on Monday, they're able to come back and start with a full belly. We also have programs. We approximately 50 to 60 families that we feed at Christmas time and Thanksgiving with turkeys and things for the Thanksgiving meal. We have the food bank over here, and we have a clothes bank over here. So it's a little commercial that we had to throw out to what we're doing here with the school district. Appreciate you coming. Thank you.
So now we're just going to go along. We're going to introduce everyone. I'm going to introduce Shelley Brown. Shelley is a survivor. She is also a board member of the foundation and is outspoken on the issue. And
I'm proud to be here today because years ago I met Heidi and was raising money shortly after Rob's life was taken. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would partner with her because I became 1 in 4. So odd the way life takes full circle. I'm a victim that will face my abuser tomorrow morning and who will be sentenced. Can't go into too many details, but it's been a long 16 months, and a year ago I couldn't have sat here. So I thank all of you who are coming out and supporting us, and all of the organizations that do fight for this cause.
Good for you.
Thank you. My name is Sharon, and I am a survivor of domestic abuse, specifically stalking. My abuser husband is currently serving 4 to 7 years for felony stalking. And I'm very proud also. It takes a lot, the month of October, it takes a lot for me to come out and address these issues because of my experience, I've developed PTSD disorder, and I'm still going to therapy for the actions committed by my husband. I'm just very happy to be here. I'm so blessed. I know that I could have been one of those unlucky victims that did not make it. The day that I felt and I was told that my husband was going to ultimately shoot me and my son, that is the day I was actually going to go to the shelter at Turning Point. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I reached out to Heidi Marco, and she just got the bandwagon going, and they put him in jail within 45 minutes. And I thank her and everyone involved because I probably would not be sitting here had I not made those moves that day. So that's my story. Happy to be here.
Common sense legislation. It
dating violence for significant issues in the United States. I'm thrilled here to really set up this foundation because it is a critical service for security, safety, wellness, domestic violence is a huge epidemic in this country. It causes significant issues. And so for me, the chance to talk about this today, the chance to be here, and the chance to fix legislation that I don't think anyone intended would lead to the behavior of people. I think these are wonderful educational pieces.
My name is M.A. Nord, it's short for Marianne. I'm the Philadelphia campaign team lead with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, and we are a gun violence prevention organization. We advocate, we're a grassroots, nonpartisan movement of, we like to say, mothers and others. So you don't have to be a mother to be a mom, but we advocate for common sense gun safety legislation. We just believe that with rights come responsibilities, and we believe so strongly that it's critically important to the life and safety of so many people to keep firearms away from dangerous individuals, in particular those convicted of domestic violence. I mean, that intersection of those two things, domestic violence and firearms, is deadly for women. And all the statistics show that the danger is, inordinately higher for women in a domestic violence situation where there's a firearm present. I became involved in Moms Demand Action in the wake of Sandy Hook. That was when the organization was formed, and we went from a Facebook page to now being a national organization of 3 million members, and we're kind of a grassroots organization. But what I realized is that the issue of gun violence, has so many tentacles that reach so far into so many people's lives, and it's not just mass shootings, that are at random. It's the domestic violence situations where, 53% of the women murdered in Pennsylvania are the victims of domestic violence homicide. So it's critically important, and the women who are, their children in cities that have, such amounts of crime and gun violence, can't let their children go outside and play. So the gun violence issue is pervasive, and so we are here to advocate, and we really appreciate some of Casey's leadership on this issue. It's been tremendous, and I know you were profoundly affected by Sandy Hook as well, and it kind of really raised our national consciousness on this issue and how it brought so many people into this issue. Thank you for being here.
So like I mentioned, my name is Heidi Marco, and I founded the Beginning Over Foundation after my sister Robin was killed by her husband. Over the last 10 years, I spent tireless amounts of time and energy trying to figure out what is going on with this cause. And I wanted to be an organization that would complement places like Turning Point, Crime Victims Council, places that are out there doing great work. I wanted to be a complement to them. So over the last 10 years, I just started figuring out ways, what are the unmet needs? What are the women in need of that are leaving the shelter program? What are the women in need of that don't go to a shelter program? And some of the statistics are so staggering, and it breaks my heart. Some of the issues that I am very passionate about is the amount of time that is spent in our courts on a daily basis. A few years back, we interviewed the judges that were running for a seat here in Northampton County, and we interviewed them, and I thought maybe 30 to 40% of the time might be spent on this issue, on our top taxpayers' dollars. Well, lo and behold, I find out that it's as high as 60 to 70% of our time in the court system is dealing with domestic violence. So that is a big chunk of change that the taxpayers are paying to the family court system, to the judges. So I just feel strongly about that issue, and that's one of my top priorities, is to change those numbers. And another issue is that 70% of women in America lose custody of their children to their abuser. Why is that? Funding, one. There really isn't any organizations out there that are willing to step up and say, here you go, we got you. Because why would a woman leave an abusive relationship if they were not able to take their children with them? Figure a woman on the front lines of battle, 5, 10, 15 years. Yes, she looks beaten down, she looks horrible, she's haggard, and she loses custody because of that reason in the court system. The abuser paints her as being mentally ill. There needs to be change. So think about that number. 70% of women that lose custody to their abuser are now living, they're depressed, they lost everything, so why wouldn't they go back? So it's more than a financial issue as to why women stay or won't leave, it's that issue. And then the other issue is domestic homicide. There are 4,000 children a year in the United States that lose a parent to domestic violence. Think about that, 4,000 children. What are we doing for these children? More importantly, what are we doing, and there are some family members here that are raising children that I'm looking at right now that I just admire, because where is the support for these families? There is none. So my organization provides camps and scholarships and support and just ongoing, endless support and friendship to these families. We need more funding for these families and their caregivers, because there are caregivers out there that are trying to raise their grandchildren, their nieces and nephews, and at the same time, they are trying to grieve and mourn the loss themselves. So these children grow up, it's a mess. The whole system is a mess, and I just believe that domestic violence needs a complete overhaul. We have antiquated programs, and I mean this in all due respect to the shelter programs. We need more funding. We need to, up the way the shelter programs are run. We need to make it a beautiful place for people to go. We don't want these women leaving their abuser and going into the shelter program and feeling like they're being re-abused or victimized. We need to come together as a team, and get the domestic violence movement started again, because it started in the 1970s, and I just believe that with a group of strong organizations banding together, we can really make a difference. So, thank you, and I'm going to introduce Senator Bob Casey.